Oh hey, whew, it is summer, it is hot, which reminds me to hydrate. So the nice people from Ohuhu reached out to me and asked me, hey, why don't you give a test run to this new marker set of ours? And I said, yeah, of course I like markers, but I want to help out my community. So what if we create a challenge where you have to draw something, and as a reward you can get this set of colored markers. So let's talk more about the challenge in a bit. Now let's see how these markers work. Okay, so I want to test this thin edge, and for that I'm using the warm gray 0.5. This is the lightest one they have. And I did test it before. It sort of works pretty well. And I just want to do a quick setup for a Mac. Nothing special. I'm gonna try and not rotate the paper too much. So interesting, well, and there you go, and I start rotating. Interesting enough, what I want to see is how this compares, because then we also have this. So basically you can draw with both of these edges. It is a relatively nice thinness, I would say. I draw out. It's like usually I want to detail as little as possible at this stage and then detail more. But what happens if I turn it around? I want to see if there's a difference between this one. Like I imagine this would be even thinner. Yeah, okay, so this is a lot thinner. So the chisel nib apparently is supposed to be used as the super thin edge, and the other one you still can sketch with it, but it's thicker, which is good for me because I enjoy having a thicker sketch brush, just because then I stay away a little bit from trying to detail something out. So okay, I guess this is interesting because yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what the intention of these are. So with this bottom one, I don't really enjoy sketching so far, as I noticed, just because I feel like I cover some of my own surface where I would want to sketch. So it is a little bit in the way. But this works pretty nice. It has a relatively pleasant thickness, and I can work with it. All right, so we have a quick sketch here. Once again, setting up the baseline with this warm gray is fine. Now, the only problem, of course, is going to be you're going to have this warm gray, which I would say it's more peach than warm gray in the background. So if you want to color with a cold gray, which is a CG2, it's not so warm. What I could do is color in with this one. So I want to see if these two will work together. So this would be my warm gray. It will fade away. So once again, with markers, when you put them down, they're a bit darker because of the wetness, but they fade out a bit. And then this would be the darker version of it. And then if you want to go one darker, we have this brown here, which I think will go a little bit extra. Yeah, that's a bit too dark, but you sort of have somewhat okay transition. I don't know if these will work for Macs. Honestly, I never, this I would use more for skin tones, but let's try it. If nothing else, I can still try and go over it with my cool grays, just to see what we can change there. I am going to leave these areas a bit open for the cool grays. I would like to have some interaction with the cool grays as well, just because this is a nice warm tone. So all these bigger surfaces would be my, like this tone, whatever this tone is. I can still come back with this, the one that I set up everything with, and just add, just so we have a little bit of a transition. And of course, let's not forget that we can go over it several times if we want to strengthen that pear color, they call it. Well, technically it is a pear color. I cannot really disagree there. Let us give just a bit of value to this underside. Maybe there's less light hitting there. Okay, now I want to bring in my cool grays as well. So I need a bit more finesse here. So I'm gonna take the cool gray in here. This would be cool. Now, so this is also, it is a limited set, so you have to keep that in mind. And I do love my grays very much. I would like it a lot if there was another gray in here. But as you can see, for a limited tone, you can set up a pretty good value system here. So this is just going to be now a base value, and I'll see if I will have to come back, or maybe I will find another color that I can play together. Since it is a cool gray, I was thinking, let's see, maybe one of the blues might work with this. Okay, I do want to strengthen this here and there, so let's take the thinner side, and well, which usually is the chisel tip is usually the thicker side, so it's interesting that here I have to consider that the thinner side. And I just go over certain areas again. Now I see that this here could all be this pear color. So the gray faded out. Now I want to see if I can do some combinations. Right now this seems to be the best option. I would go with this just because this seems to work maybe the best. Definitely not the green. This blue might work as well, but these are very saturated. So instead, I'm just going to try and go over it again with my grays. Well, with my cold gray, and just strengthen this again. So like this is also a nice solution. We can wait a little bit and go over it again. What I will do is try that green on the gun here, just because the gun could be like some sort of different metal and it could have a slight grayish hue to it. I also checked, I can also try and combine it a bit with the yellow. So of course not the gray, I'm talking about this peachy color. So if you want to add a bit of extra darkness, you could technically come in with the yellow and just add, not too strongly, not everywhere, but in a couple of spots you could add a bit of yellow, thus making it a little bit darker. And as I promised, I will try this teal, green, blue sort of thing. Well, teal is green, blue. Here on the gun, not just subtly. Okay, we have our robot. Let's do something industrial designy, because that's how we started this channel, and that's, I think, like markers. At least most people find me with markers, drawing markers and whatnot. So before I use the warm gray, now I'm going to use the cold gray, and we are going to draw a product vacuum cleaner, let's say, because that's quite producty, I guess. Sadly, I drew this one before. I messed up the camera on it, so I have to redraw it. As you can see, I am using the thick one with this edge for the sketching. It is, once again, works extremely well for what it needs to do. So no complaints on my part. Every now and then I have the tendency like, oh, where is the thin, not the chisel edge, but the other one. But actually, it's not that needed. This works quite nicely. Alright, this is pretty much all the setup I want to do with the gray. I am going to switch to my fine liner now, and this process you already know. Alright, now that the lines are done, I'm going to stick with a colder theme and bring in a blue just to do the rendering here. Now, this is me looking at some references, but I don't have the exact, so I sort of made this one up, and I don't have the exact lighting system. So I'm just gonna go a little bit crazy with it. So I like to outline it first. I like to keep that, if possible, thin. I can always come in and make it thicker, but in the beginning, if you set up a nice thin outline, you can always go thicker in the end. There we go. So we have some reflections here. I leave that as it is. Here I want to do something like this as well. So, and then here we should have something like that. I want to strengthen the section lines just a little bit here and there. I don't care about the central section line, but these here in the back could be useful. Now I switch to black one. As you see, I did some guides for myself where I want to leave it a bit empty, so I want some white reflections in there. And I bring my black marker in now. I try to stay within the lines that I set up for myself. And then for the wheel, I just have a bit of fun there. What we can do is come back with the gray, which is here, and try to wash this a bit out. That should give us a little bit of a almost like reflective feeling to it. As you can see, I can wash a bit of the ink out, not too much, but that will give me this nice, hopefully reflective feeling. So these areas, I don't want to leave them super white, so I'm gonna come in with my gray marker here as well and just darken these areas up a bit. Something that we can do, if you want to, bring in another blue. So this one, it's more of a teal. And I can unite this black back part of my vacuum cleaner and just here and there bring in a little bit of this teal, not too much, but then it will give it this sort of double color sort of mix. Okay, with the colors sort of drying, we go to our white pen and we just start outlining areas that are hit by a bit of light, which are section lines will make, and of course these outlines as well. It will make our drawing look a bit more poppy and interesting, especially with this section line. And then to contrast this, later I will come in with a black and give it a darker outline there as well. We can also play with these specular highlights there. Okay, and to bring in a little bit of contrast, because this is okay as it is, but we can make it pop a little bit more, we use my typical, give it just some sort of rectangle background with a color that is a complementary color to what we have here. And for that we have some yellows and oranges, because yellows and oranges usually work well with blues. So I'm going to take my yellow. I am going to be a bit more paying attention here around the edges. Just make a nice little box here. And then from here I can switch to my thicker side of the brush and be a little bit looser as well. This will help in creating sort of that transition effect. Same here. So I'm going to draw in the outline first this time around. Switch to my smaller chisel where I feel I have a bit more control. I don't want to overlap with the greens or the blues because, well, not green, teal, because that will cause slightly different colors. I could leave it here, but I can also create a nice transition. So this area is a bit dry. So I'm just coming in with my thick side of the brush and I'm just brushing in here a couple of times, making sure to create a darker version of my yellow, which sort of it turns into an orange almost, right? So I'll do the same thing. You can see a bit of mixing with the blue-gray, light blue-gray marker. So that's what I'm trying to stay away from. Here as well, let's come back and just do a couple of passes until you feel that you have a nice orange going on there. And I think that's pretty nice. You can go one step further. We can take the actual orangey color. Let's wait until it's a bit dry, and then just less passes this time around. Like that. I leave it at that. Just give the outline a bit stronger there. And then same here. Give it a bit of outline. But the effect is pretty nice. I like it, at least. And there we have it. This is what we can do with this set of Ohuhu markers. This was it for these markers. Yeah, they are fun. Once again, I am not the biggest fan of just having red, blue, yellow and these basic colors, because I like to have like different gradations. And as you could see, you can do it with one color, but you can have more fun if you have slightly different shades. So that would be my one criticism. The other one is, it's not a criticism, but usually they have these blender markers that I never use because they don't, at least for my taste, they don't work enough. But yeah, other than that, I really enjoy this set. And of course, the interesting thing is this thicker rounded nib as opposed to the chisel nib. The thin edge perfectly replaces the thin that came before it. So I think if you want to be able to cover bigger surfaces, this is a very nice nib. Thank you again for Ohuhu for sending these markers. It is also Ohuhu's 7-year anniversary, so there's some links in the description down below if you want to buy stuff for cheaper from them. Check them out. So I did some fun marker rings with these markers, but now it's your turn to do the same, namely the challenge that I mentioned in the beginning of the video. And the challenge is for you to draw a product sketch. Because it is also hot and summer, I thought let's do something related with hot summer. So if you have a nice garden, I sadly don't, but I would love to see what you draw for one. You can do barbecue stuff, you can do chairs in the gardens, whatever you want. You can do also sunscreen device that spritzes this onto your hand. Whatever you want, come up with something that has to do with making your life nicer or easier in the summertime. And there's also, of course, hashtags that you have to use. So the rules, I forgot, post on Instagram, use the hashtags that are down below, of course for Ohuhu, and tag Ohuhu and me in these drawings so we can see what you made. One more important thing, don't use colors, because the idea would be that you can color it with this set if you are the lucky winner. And one of the hashtags, so I can find it, make sure to use the hashtag Summer Marker Challenge. So, wish you all the best of luck. The challenge goes for 2 weeks. So next week, Thursday the 22nd, is during the live stream, is when I'm going to announce the winner. All right, and then with that, now the video is really over. Thank you for watching it. If you want to see the full unedited version with all sorts of bloopers like this, check out my Patreon. I will upload it there. Speaking of Patreon, thank you very much for my Patreon supporters. You are a huge help. But as always, the most important thing is that you folks have a great time, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.